Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, I've got a little bit of a curious thing to show you guys. So, this is something that I've always noticed there for the longest time, and other people pointed out to me too, but I never really thought much of it until now, really. So, during the Didact boss fight, after this cutscene where Chief is hanging on a bridge, there's a floating white cube in the sky up there. Now, at first I thought maybe there was some kind of texture glitch with planet Earth in the background. And maybe for some reason there's some random pixel that just, I don't know, got messed up or glitched out. But turns out it's actually something a lot more than that. So let's find out what it is. So to look into this, I had to dig a little bit deeper and use the mod tools again to explore around and see what that is. So here we are on the bridge scene again. Let's just simply go to the free camera mode and we'll fly around and see exactly what is up there with that cube. So ignore the whole thing that's covering the ceiling right now. For some reason when I play this mission in the mod tools, the thing up there it just glitches out and doesn't open properly, so it stays closed the entire time and the beam just kind of shoots right through it. But here we are, the cube, and what's interesting is that there's actually no name attached to it. I have the debug information enabled for both the name and the animations. So what you're seeing right now on the cube in the white text is the animation information, not the name. But the animation information does make reference to a grav lift. It seems to be some kind of grav lift related object. Also, you might have noticed here that when I fly away from the cube, just a little bit, not too far away, it vanishes pretty quickly. It fades away. So, for a quick reference, the mod tools of Halo 4, it's the rendering settings, such as the draw distance, should be pretty close to what the Xbox 360 was. So that's why it fades away pretty quickly when it fly away, which is actually important to remember later. So, as I said, the animation information of the cube, it makes reference to a grav lift. Well, the only grav lift I can think of during this part of the mission is at the very end. Once you've cleared out all the enemies, this grav lift powers up and you're supposed to go up to the light bridge where you encounter the Didact. So it seems like it probably has something to do with this grav lift. Because if we look up in the sky, while the grav lift is here, already that white text up there at the very top, that's where the cube is. So while the grav lift exists, so does that cube. But let's put that to the test on MCC without any mods whatsoever. And we can actually see if that cube is related to the grav lift or not, quite easily actually. So all we have to do is just clear out the enemies here at the very end, and shortly after, the grav lift will spawn. So let's just look up at the sky in the meantime, and let's zoom in. It's a little hard to remember exactly where the cube is, but as you can see, there it is, it just spawned. And I'll revert in a second and show you again, but let's look very closely. So it'll be right about there, the top middle-ish, and there it is. There's the cube. It just pops in right when the grav lift spawns and activates as well. So it seems to be definitely related to the grav lift. Now, what's interesting is, why haven't we noticed this on the 360 version? Because this seems to only be something that, at least I noticed on the MCC version. So the reason for that is because the rendering distance, as I mentioned earlier, on the 360 is quite low for Halo 4. You don't need to go that far away from an object for it to fade away. So here on MCC, I've set the graphics settings to the original graphics, which should match very closely to Halo 4 on the 360. And as you saw when I zoom out, you can't see the cube anymore. So it's pretty much the same with the performance graphics as well, which is the lowest graphics settings. But what this basically means is that on a 360 version of Halo 4, you never would have been able to see this normally. I mean, maybe if you had a scoped weapon or a zoom-in weapon like I'm using right now, you could maybe see it if you know where to look at the right time. But you'd only be able to see it before you go on a grav lift. Right after the grav lift spawns, before you go on it. Most people probably wouldn't have thought to look up there and zoom in randomly for no reason. But I haven't actually tested it out on the 360 version, but I'm pretty sure you won't be able to see it at all. And maybe even when you scope in, it might be a blurry pixelated mess up there, so it might not even be that visible either. But at the very least, on a 360 version, you wouldn't be able to see it unless you maybe scoped in. But then again, chances are it would still be hard to see even when you scope in with the lower resolution. But yeah, I mean, ever since 343 fixed MCC and added the higher graphic settings to the PC version and even the Xbox One X and Series X versions, that's when if you play on the highest settings, that's when you could start seeing that cube floating up there for no reason without having to do any tricks or zoom in or anything. It's just floating there, and it's just, people have always wondered why it's there. It just seems to be like an odd thing just sticking out. But now you know, it's related to the graph lift. I don't exactly know what purpose it serves for the graph lift, but it is part of the graph lift object and animation. So that's just it's just part of what the graph lift is. It might be some placeholder part of the graph lift or something like that, but I don't know for sure. But definitely is part of the graph lift. It only spawns when the graph lift spawns. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it to be interesting. If you did, as always, make sure to leave a like, leave thoughts in the comments. Anything else you want to check out, look into, just let me know in the comments down below. But aside from that, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys!